Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, so this episode was inspired by a question from one of our listeners, our podcast listeners, Aaron Chapman. It's a really good one. So he asked, who will be the next team to reach the college football playoff for the first time? So the three of us put our heads together, came up with our combined list. And Trey, who fell number 5?
The Wisconsin Badgers are at number 5. And, you know, they might not be maybe as good or as high have as high of a ceiling as some of the teams on our list usually, but they're consistently in the mix in the Big Ten, almost always the favorite in the weaker West Division. And since they usually represent the West Division, they're almost always a game away from, you know, if they upset Ohio State, example, from sneaking into the playoff, because usually the Big Ten champ gets in there if they have, they would have a solid enough record. And given the fact that they've upped the recruiting a tick lately, no reason to think that they can't break through.
Yep. No, I agree. They've been knocking on the door. Number 4, we have USC Michael's squad here. That's kind of an easy answer. This is the fact that, you know, they have all the advantages being a blue blood on the West Coast. They can get amazing talent there, great recruiting ability. And the competition level as far as the Pac-12, generally they have the ability to dominate, right? They can run that conference. So it's really just a matter of time till USC gets another good run. So it's kind of an easy answer here, USC.
Yeah, the advantage they have is no Ohio State to deal with, no Oklahoma.
It's like Oregon
Clemson.
Or UW.
Yeah, Oregon right now is the top dog in the Pac-12, but they've already been to the playoffs, so they weren't eligible here.
Yep.
Number 3 on our list is Texas, and Sark is taking over a pretty good situation, much better than what Tom Herman took over. They've been recruiting really well, so the cupboard is not bare. He could, you know, they're a long shot, but it's possible it could happen this year, and certainly within the next few years if Sark is the real deal. And, you know, I just said the Big 12 has Oklahoma to deal with, but they're more manageable than your Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. So it's pretty much just OU at the top, and then Iowa State right now, and maybe a random school here or there. But Texas is not far from being number 2 in the conference.
Nope. Well, speaking of Texas, number 2, we've got Texas A&M. We've spoken a lot over the past couple years on our podcast about how Jimbo has been building something there, and we know how much money they've been willing to spend to get there. The recruiting the last few years has seen a dramatic rise and put them where they need to be to make a playoff. And it makes sense given that Texas is talent rich and players want to play in the SEC. And look at, this past year, they lost one game. They won the Orange Bowl. They're inching closer in the SEC race. Like, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if they broke through in the next couple years.
Yeah, I mean, they one game. They were right there this past year. Just so close.
Yeah, a different committee decision. They very well could have made it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, number 1 here, we have the Florida Gators. We're high on Dan Mullen. We think he's a great coach. Obviously, Florida has had extreme success, in the last couple decades. So we've seen the success happen in Gainesville. The recruiting is just very, very well. It's going well, and they have all the advantages of being, Florida SEC program. They're a top dog. Eventually they're going to make it. Florida is Florida. It sells itself.
Yep, they were my number 1 as well. All right, how about let's show the top 5 here for the viewers. Who was the biggest snub from your list? Trey, who was the highest on your personal ballot that didn't make our top 5?
I actually said North Carolina. They don't necessarily have the historical, resume, but lately Mac Brown is upped the game there. I know, of course, the ACC runs through Clemson, but Mac Brown and his staff have been building something there. They got to a New Year's Six Bowl last year. And even if they don't do it with Sam Howell on their roster, the talent's improving enough, and the buzz in Chapel Hill has been more on the football team than basketball, it seems.
Yeah, Carolina's a good one. My personal ballot was actually identical to our top 4, but 5th, instead of Wisconsin, I had Penn State, which I could have gone either way there. I get that Wisconsin has a little bit easier path in the West, but I just sided with the I guess, the talent that Penn State brings in. But those two programs have been pretty equal the last few years, so could have gone either way.
Yeah, I definitely had those in the top 5 and 7, or I think are mine. But then a couple others that where you could definitely consider Michigan. I think they obviously have enough of the ability to do that recruiting wise, stable program, enough like that. So, and Harbaugh's been close. I mean, he's had some really, really good teams. So, just a little bit away from beating Ohio State. And
2016, they were very close. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think you can always point to the U, Miami. Just the fact that you keep waiting for them to have one of those other runs, and maybe Diaz will be the guy. They obviously had a really good year last year. If they can kind of build on that, I could see the U doing that, because somebody's got to step up in that ACC. I mean, North Carolina seems to be the squad, but that's not set in stone. Miami was kind of right there. So, I would probably say those are the couple other ones.
One school we didn't bring up is Iowa State,
or Cincy, right?
Or Cincy, yeah. It's
this
tough
year
for G5, but yeah, this year. And as far as who has the best chance this year to be that first team, I guess you could easily argue Iowa State. But for me, the reason they weren't on my top 5 is that I just don't know about the staying power. What about next year and the year after? So
they're going to lose a ton after this year. So.
Mm-hmm. But all right, that'll do it for this episode of the College Football Bros. If you like our content, remember we have a podcast as well. And this was actually a mailbag question for our podcast. We decided to make into a YouTube video, but we have a full mailbag episode out right now. You can find the links in the description below to Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're everywhere. And that'll do it. We'll see you next week.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.